Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Kay Cote, your podcast host here at Action Coach in Central Texas. Today on the show, we have Josh Meisel, founder and CEO of iTrip Austin. Today, we're going to be diving into Josh's journey about his business, ownership, challenges, and best practices that he's learned along the way. And we'll give you a sneak peek into what it's really like to build and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop episodes just like this one. Well, welcome, Josh. I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Please give us a brief overview of your background and tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my background is I spent a lot of years working for corporations doing product management, and then I decided to purchase a franchise about 4 months ago and become a small business owner myself. And so I bought the Austin franchise of iTrip. And what we do is we do short-term rental property management for investors or property owners that have a second home and completely manage all aspects of the property, including marketing it on all the listing sites like Airbnb, Vrbo, and making sure we have all the guest interactions, cleaning between guests, maintaining the property, pretty much full service short-term rental property management on behalf of our owners.
Oh, that is very cool. I really, really like hearing about that and kind of I want to look at what's your ownership structure look like. You're the sole founder. Are there any outside investors or any other like do you have a team? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I am the sole owner of the franchise, but I do have a team of employees. I've got four employees. One is an operations manager that's handling a lot of the day-to-day operations, working on, with the cleaners and maintenance. I have a guest services manager that kind of deals with all the guest interactions and any questions and such that any of our guests have in any of our properties. And then I also have two inspectors on the team that go out, and we separately, in addition to the cleaners, we have separate inspectors that go out just to make sure the property is like in perfect shape and it's going to be a great five-star experience for our guests.
Oh, that is incredible. It's cool to hear that you're like growing your staff and I'd like to dive into your role. What's like your day-to-day look like in the business?
Sure. So as the business owner, it's like, at the end, the kind of the buck stops here, right? So I have a lot of different things. I'm, been working really hard on growing the business. So, like sales and marketing, doing that and trying to find, new property owners that might be interested in our services. I'm looking at ways to increase bookings. So I spent a lot of time. I'm actually working on implementing a new revenue management system that will you monitor rates and provide better ways to really get the optimum rate for the guests on the properties, and just overall looking at like new things we could introduce, enhancements to the business overall to make a better experience for our owners and for our guests.
Mm, that's a really incredible too. And I kind of like thinking about your customer. Like, if I was in your audience, how would you know I would be a great fit for your service?
So really I'd say the best customers as far as like on the property of the owners is either investors that have a property that there is in a like kind of like a central area, someplace that attracts a lot of tourists to visit, like anywhere like especially in Austin, like in the central Austin area does great. We also have a lot of properties out by Lake Travis,
Mhm.
which does really well, especially during the summer. So if you're an investor and you have a property, that's it's a good option to especially if it's in that type of area that you can bring in a lot of income. We also the other type of customer is someone that has maybe a second property and likes to stay there with or have family and friends there, but they're only using it maybe a month or two out of the year, and then would like to make some money for the other 10 months that they're not using it. And so we let our owners use the property as much as they want, and then the rest of the time we will rent it out, and so that they're generating income when they're not using their property.
Oh, that's really cool too. I dig that model, especially yeah, letting the homeowners like have their or the the property owners have time there and then have time to rent it out. So it sounds like you have like a really good system for communications, like within your clients and working with you. Do you use like a CRM or anything for organizing your clients or your staff, or is that something like how do you organize?
Well, we actually have an owner portal for all
Okay.
of our property owners. So a property owner can see all of the bookings, they can see the calendar, and they can actually reserve the property anytime they like. We have no restrictions on how much the property owners want to use their own property.
Mhm.
So they just, obviously they can't book it if it's already booked by a guest. So we just say like, hey, book it far in advance before it gets booked up by a guest. But if they're thinking like, yeah, I want to take a vacation, they'll just go ahead and block that time off, and that way make sure that it's available for them to use. And so they can do all that on the portal. They don't even have to call us. Of course, we are there all the time for calls. So if they do have any questions or concerns, we're happy to help them.
Oh, definitely. I'd like to also dive in, like, how would you say your competitors compare with you?
Sure. So really I'd say kind of two main types of competitors. There's like the large corporations like Vacasa that are kind of these huge corporations that have locations all around the country. And then there's kind of smaller, just local companies that are doing property management. And so the advantage we have is that we are, as part of a national franchise, we have the support of a corporation that has state-of-the-art software
Mhm.
where we are integrated with over 50 listing sites. So when we advertise your property, it's on over all these different websites all around the world. And a lot of like smaller, like just local uh, companies don't have that kind of range that they could get your properties advertised on all those sites. And then the national competitors will have that range, but then they don't have the local knowledge and support that we can provide because we're, as a franchise, locally owned and operated. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was just gonna say the best of both worlds. That is super cool. This kind of like leads me right into marketing. You were mentioning
Mhm.
a little bit about marketing you have, from help from like the friend, like within the company. So what are some of the things that y'all do with your marketing in terms of like, are you on social media focused, or do you have certain structures? Like, what's that look like for you?
Honestly, it's I'm experimenting with different marketing things right now. It's as I've only had the business for about 4 months now, so I'm trying different things. Some leads from realtors to have the realtors introduce us, because we pay a realtor referral fee for anyone they refer. I'm also experimenting on social media, posting some things on social media. Um, and honestly, like so far, like a lot of the newest properties have come from referrals
Mhm.
from some of our existing property owners. So, but I'm still working to find the kind of like the optimal best marketing strategies that
Yeah.
really kind of get us in front of the right people, because it is a little challenging to get in front of the right folks that have properties that would be a good fit for short-term rental property management.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's kind of like experimenting and see what works the best and yeah, where your audience is.
Yeah.
Um, kind of like to dive into, we've been talking, a bit about your business. I'd like to learn a little bit more about you and your journey. And so what made you choose to go into business for yourself as opposed to working for somebody else?
Sure. So, yeah, as I mentioned before, I spent my entire career working for large corporations.
Mhm.
I was in product management for a lot of that time, and worked in a variety of different industries. One of the industries I did work in was vacation rentals. I worked at VRBO as a product manager, so I had some exposure to that. And so I started like kind of in parallel to I was in the process of looking for another job. I had left my previous job, and the franchise coach reached out to me and said, "Hey, have you thought about purchasing a franchise and having running your own business?" I was like, that's really interesting. I'd like to explore that more. So she started presenting different opportunities to me, and this opportunity for iTrip Austin came up, where it was an existing franchise. So they already had quite a number of properties under management. So I wouldn't be starting from scratch, which was, one of my concerns. And it actually kind of really complemented my skill set because it had the vacation rental aspect, and it also had, it personally, I invest in a lot of real estate. And
Mhm.
so I was already familiar with a lot of the challenges of managing tenants and properties because I do that personally with my own real estate investments. So it was kind of a perfect combination. I was like, yeah, I think this is something I really want to do.
Oh, that's awesome because you already had such a leg up with those different skills and that kind of like set you on a good path
Yeah.
into grabbing this business up.
Mhm.
Looking back at your journey so far, like what is a something that has been a roadblock for you or something a hurdle or a challenge you overcame and how did you overcome it?
Sure. So one of the challenges was that as I bought this business, so the previous owners, one of the reasons they decided to sell is there were some health concerns, and they for the last like because of these health concerns, the last like year or so, they really, were kind of preoccupied and they weren't able to focus on the business as much as they wanted. So the business was sort of declining quite a bit. And so I kind of had to jump in and really like put a lot of focus in and like turn the bookings around, increase the bookings, and figure out like, hey, what changes can I make to really kind of turn this around and get it back into a growth mode, which is something that I've been doing.
Mm, yeah, that sounds like it's been really impactful just to like get kind of like get back on the up and up and
Mhm.
yeah, kind of looking forward into your business. Where do you see it going within the next 3 to 5 years?
So my goal is to like triple the number of properties under management. So that's my big goal in 3 to 5 years is to do that.
That's a great goal. Speaking of goals, like what is your approach to goal setting? How many goals do you have at one time, and how do you kind of like work those in a time frame?
Sure. So what I like to do is I have like one large, what I call a BHAG or big, hairy, audacious goal,
Yes, I
right?
know
And
the
we'll just
one.
right. That's a commentary. I think it came about from quite a while back, and so I set that as kind of like the long term goal that's overarching, and then I work from there to come up with smaller goals. Like how can I get that right? Because that big goal is a little daunting if just like looked at on its own. It's like, oh, how am I going to do that? So if I think about smaller goals and kind of chunk that up, like okay, well, like one of the goals is okay, increase the number of properties under management. Okay, well, how can I maybe set a goal for like I'm going to get 2 new properties each month or something so that's smaller and more manageable, and like other goals like, well, how can I increase bookings? So I'm going to implement a new rate management tool that's going to let me increase the bookings by providing better rates. And, I want to increase my bookings, 20 or, 20% over a certain amount of time. So making sure like that I have some small measurable goals that follow the SMART model that so they're specific and timely and measurable.
Mm, yeah, that's really powerful, especially like those the big, hairy, audacious goals can be very hairy and very scary. So it's
Yeah,
nice to break them into smaller chunks.
definitely.
And kind of looking at your team, how would you describe your leadership style when you're working with your team?
Sure. So I look back at like what I like and don't like it, with from the managers I've had. And one of the things I absolutely hate is being micromanaged. So I make sure, and most people hate that too. It's really usually not great, not good experience for anybody. So I make sure not to micromanage my employees. Basically, I let them come up with solutions. I give them guidance and coaching where necessary. So, if I see they do something, I'm like, you know what, that maybe just when we next time we have a one-on-one, say like, oh, well, when you do this, have you thought about this or considered this? And just try to look at it as like a growth and a coaching opportunity,
Mhm.
and try to just work with them, but ultimately let them determine like how they're going to manage their day-to-day activities without getting like overly involved with the specifics.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a really awesome approach too. And I'd love to hear how you approach hiring and retaining team members.
Yeah, so I've been pretty fortunate that I have a lot of great members that were already on board when I bought the company. So it's I've been trying to make sure that like they're happy and keeping them on board. and to understand like some like what are their concerns. Like recently, like they were concerned like they didn't have any time. They felt like they couldn't take any time off. Like it was like 24/7. Like they were bombarded. And I told them, hey, I'm happy to cover your job because we are a small company. So it's that I'm just like, hey, just take this time off. I'll cover all your responsibilities for that time, and don't worry about it. So that we can. I told them like, hey, you should be able to take a vacation. It's not you know you don't have to be on all the time. Like we can cover for each other. Trying to document more of the processes and stuff, so it is easier for someone else to step in and cover. Because I think like when I started, there weren't a lot of things documented, so it was harder for someone to cover. So I said, hey, let's document everything so that if someone needs to cover for you, jump in and we can have these processes to fall back on. So not everything has to go to you personally.
Oh, definitely. That's a really great like plan of attack for that. This has been such a fun conversation. We've covered so many great nuggets. And as we kind of start to wrap up, I'd love to ask you a few rapid fire questions. These are just questions top of mind. First thing that comes to your mind, and we've got four of them. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
It's like a game show. All right. Question number one is, what is the key to success for you?
So for me, really the key to success is treating obstacles as opportunities to solve a problem and improve a process. Uh, don't let yourself get discouraged by, these obstacles that come up. Every entrepreneur is going to definitely face obstacles. And so really like getting that mindset to like the Stoics have, like where you're not going to let that overwhelm you. We're going to find a way around it and get through it, and just remaining doggedly persistent in your pursuit to achieve your goals.
Oh, that is great. So what is one piece of advice you have for other business owners?
One thing I would advise that has helped me is to network with other small business owners. I found this to be really helpful because, sometimes like you feel like you're out there on your own running this business. And so one thing is that's real great about being part of iTrip is we have over 100 franchisees around the country, and none of us compete with each other. We all have our own exclusive territories. So we get on calls and we share best practices and how we get past challenges. And it's great having kind of that camaraderie and knowing that other folks are going through some of the same things and finding out ways to get past it. So really kind of building that network of people that you can talk to and get advice from.
Yes, networks are key. I love that. Third question is like, what is a piece of content, a book, anything that you've taken in right now that has impacted you?
So there's two books that have really impacted me on this journey. So the first, and I'm sure you've heard of this one, is the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, and that's been a great one, like for entrepreneurs to like look at the business as to separate the business from yourself, and like how you can make processes and systems to make it to remove basically yourself from the equation. And then the other book that I really found inspiring was Unreasonable Hospitality, and this is a little more specific to the hospitality industry, but it was actually written by the owner of 11 Madison West, the famous uh, New York restaurant, like the Michelin star restaurant, and
Yeah.
how he got it to be a Michelin star restaurant, and like the hospitality, like they did some really amazing things. And so being in that space is that there's almost lessons to learn for everybody, but specifically if you're in the hospitality business, it was really kind of eye-opening and incredible to think like, we can really do some really amazing, innovative things. Like it gave me an idea, like one thing like we're doing is we have the solar eclipse coming up in Austin when the path of totality. So I got these solar eclipse glasses and I'm going to provide these to all the guests of our properties so they can really enjoy the eclipse. So that's kind of like taking that spirit of unreasonable hospitality.
Oh, I dig that. I know I got my glasses ready to go too. So that's a really cool way to integrate. And the final question is if there was one area of your business like that you could choose to immediately improve tomorrow, what would it be?
Really that the better systems for rate management. So
Mhm.
I mentioned I'm looking to another system to implement
Yeah.
because that's going to have really like a bit. better impact. Like if I can be able to increase the bookings, then that's going to make for happier property owners. So it kind of goes all around. So that's one of the big aspects I'm working on right now.
I dig that. Well, this has been so much fun. Before we get into our final question, I'd love to plug our listeners in with you and how to find you. So feel free to share. How can people get in touch with you? Social media, anything.
Yeah, they're free to contact me. They can just go to our website and for iTrip Austin. So if they search for iTrip Austin, it's austin.itrip.co is our
Mhm.
website, and they can just all our contact information is there, and they can contact me. Or if there's a guest looking for a property, they can book one of our 40 plus properties on the site directly as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Josh. I would love to dive into our last question here. What is most inspiring to you today?
Uh, Gosh, I get inspiration from a lot of folks. Like one of the things specific to my industry that there's one of the top franchisees in Portland has had the business for 5 years and has grown it to over 300 properties under management, which is unbelievable. I mean, it's really amazing. And I've talked with him, and he's just really inspiring. He like the processes he's put into place and some of the things that he's doing. And so he's really inspiring that, hey, if he can do this, then I can be successful as well.
Awesome. I love that. And thank you so much, Josh, for being on the show today. It's been a pleasure sharing this conversation with you.
Great. Well, thank you. I really enjoyed it.